Hello and welcome to this edition of Finance and Technology Insights. I'm Brian Williams from Northshire Consulting. He's Eric Buhrendorf from EVERNET. What's happening, Eric?
What's going on?
Oh, not much. We signed the kid up for Little League this week, so we've got that going on. They had a March deadline, so we got in and started some practices and some games next week. So that's just like kindergarten a couple weeks ago. It's one of those rite of passage kind of check the
Yeah.
box things. So
And you're a
looking forward to
baseball
that.
family, as you can see in the base with the baseball cards in the back. So that's
Yeah.
big. That's big for you guys. Is that different than T-ball?
So he could have played T-ball last year and we skipped it. And then this year he's right on the cutoff where he could have gone down to T-ball or kept going with the so he's on parent pitch right now. So
Parent pitch, yeah.
so I knew the coach and the coach has a couple boys on the team and he's on the parent pitch. So I figured it would be better off for him and I to go on with a coach that he knows and a couple of boys that he knows. And
It's cool.
I think he'll be okay with that. Yeah.
Will they use one of those spring-loaded mechanisms to pitch for the kids, or is that like an
I
underhand
think it
kind of?
really is truly parent pitch. Honestly, I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know too much about it. I was texting my buddy who's the coach a little bit this weekend, and I'm like, "Am I already the most annoying parent yet?" Because, but I probably am. But try not to be that guy. So I'll just show up at the first practice and see what it's like, see what he needs. Try not to
Ve-
get too much into it.
Very exciting. Very exciting. I saw in the news. Now I'm not a baseball fan historically. I take the girls out to yard goats as we've talked about once a year, maybe twice. But I did see in the news that the MLB just made some changes this year, new with this year to the game, notably the pitch clock.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I saw you post about that. I didn't know if that was going to be a topic today or not, but yeah, we've followed that. I mean, we're a baseball house. We usually have it on, and some, we're not glued to it for 3 hours or whatever. But it's, on Sundays and stuff. It's usually in playing around the house somewhere or whatever. So we've been following this through spring training. So a few different rules and changes to the league this year. So pitch clock. So trying to limit the amount of downtime in between each pitch. So, if you're think about going back a couple years, you got the batters that are always fixing their gloves and stepping out of the box and all that kind of nonsense. So they're trying to get rid of that. The
Can you
bases are actually physically bigger this year too, which is interesting. So they're trying to create a little more action on the base path. Stolen bases are not anywhere near where they were when we were a kid. Nobody was stealing for a while, and so we're shortening the games by getting rid of a lot of the downtime, but then also the action that is creating more of that. So in the shift, so you used to be able to move three players to the left or right side of the infield to try to prevent some base hits for sneaking through. Now it's like basketball and football, they have their illegal defenses, and now baseball has that as well, where you have to keep two players on each side of the infield. So so far, people seem to like it, and the games definitely are faster.
I mean, I just watched a couple minutes of a game. I don't even know who was playing, to be honest with you. And I saw the pitch clock, and I saw the tempo was noticeably different.
Hmm.
Like it was very intriguing to a non-baseball fan to say, "Wow, maybe could this be a sport that somebody like me could revisit?" You know?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it comes with great shame to say publicly that you're not a sports baseball fan. You know what I mean? In this country,
Yeah, I know it's such a
an
sports
American
dominated
sport.
culture, and especially as a male, sometimes you kind of feel that pressure to be. I always kind of have been, so I've been able to at least, at a minimum, be able to carry most conversations when they come up, or at least actively participate. But
Now I
um,
know the show isn't about baseball, but I'm because we get to talk about whatever we want. Can you go into detail about the shot clock? Me and my father were talking. My father likes baseball a little bit more than me,
mhm.
but although I still would say he's not a fan. But we were trying to suss out how the shot clock might work. We were just kind of figuring out. So how does the batter? It's a pitch clock. So
Right.
are both batter and pitcher beholden to this? And are
So
they?
they are. If the pitcher takes too long to get back in, he gets charged with a ball. So it's like he threw a ball, and if the batter takes too long, he gets charged with a strike. So
Oh
so it's
wow.
kind of on both of them. So 30-second between pitches, and
30 seconds. Okay, I kept seeing 16 on the ticker board.
Well, so that's another interesting point too. The different networks are trying to figure out what the most appropriate way to communicate that is. It's almost like you don't want to leave the clock up all the time because then
Yeah,
it's
basketball does
too
that,
much.
right?
Yeah, yeah. In
Didn't they show
basketball,
it when it's like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, something left
yeah.
in a
Same thing
heated
in the NFL, they do that too with the play clock, so they will,
right.
kinda come up with 5 seconds left.
Got it.
But, yeah, so that's a big deal. So 30-second between pitches, 20 seconds with a runner on base. Um,
Oh, 20 seconds with a runner on base. That's interesting.
yeah.
So let me break this down though. How can a batter and a pitcher not well, how can a batter not manipulate the play? Like if the pitcher's ready to deliver a pitch and the batter's out of the box, then how could it be the pitcher's fault if a pitch doesn't come?
Well, so it wouldn't be, so that would be on the batter, so he'd be charged with a strike.
What if
Yep.
now do you anticipate this last second game where the batter's going to dip his toe back in the box and try to is somebody going to like masterfully game that or something?
Yeah, every rule gets gamed to some extent, and we've seen a little bit of that this weekend with some different stuff. So there was a pitcher who got charged with a violation, and the pitch clock only comes into play until they start their motion. So this wise guy pitcher said, "All right, I'll start my motion within the time." So he brought his front leg up as if he was about to throw, and then just stood there for a few beats as if to say, "I still run the show. I'm in my motion. I can
He did a
stand here as long as I
slow-mo.
want." Yeah. So you'll probably get some stuff like that. We did have the first strikeout that was called on a batter. So that was the first one over the
As a result
weekend.
of the clock?
Yeah, yep. So 2 strikes, he's taking his sweet time and got called out. So that was a big deal.
That
So
is a
it's
big
just,
deal.
all these rules get adjusted every year. It's everybody talks about the, baseball and the purity and all that kind of stuff. But if you look over the course of the last 150 years, there's been a million rule changes,
Sure, of
and it
course.
just continues to evolve. And um, everybody likes that certain point in time usually where they got involved in baseball, and they want that to stay the same because they
Yeah,
sort of latch onto it.
right.
So I always say, I think of that as like I was watching an interview with Lorne Michaels, and he was talking about the history of Saturday Night Live, and he goes, "The history of Saturday Night Live is easy. Everybody's favorite SNL was when they were in high school, and everything after that
That's so
stinks, and
true.
everything before that was so unfunny." And he's like, "It'll always be that way because
That's
that's
so
when."
true.
Yeah,
It's so true.
right. So,
I'm
um,
just
so I,
curious, like the batter, surely the batter can get his foot. You could drag a foot into the box faster than a pitcher could process that and then begin his pitch. I just see this like last 2 second thing happening between batter and pitcher, or is that just that not likely going to be?
yeah. So I guess if he's trying to, so knowing that the clock is about to run out, and you could have a foot on and still not be ready to hit the pitch, so the pitcher could throw the ball, and and then not, and the batter wouldn't be prepared to hit it, so he
But
could
he can't
potentially
throw
get
the
that
ball
strike
unless the
again.
batter's in the box, right?
I guess he could. I don't know. I'd have to think about that a little
You
bit,
see
but
that like that. I mean, even, especially if it's like a walk. What do they call it when a walk results in a home run? You know what I mean?
yeah, it's like when they walk in a run if the bases are loaded, and
Yeah, so you're like
yeah,
you got a late game, it's heated, everybody's pulling out every string, every tool they've got in their box. A batter keeps his foot out of the box, winds the pitch clock down, and then drags his foot quickly into the box before the pitcher. I mean, even the pitcher's staring at the guy, waiting for that foot to come in. You know what I mean? And then
yeah.
it's just a matter of like when does the umpire log that where does that fault go, or is there like a gray area to the officiates that they say, okay, well, we're not going to let you play the clock like that, batter, and then a pitcher made a good faith effort to pitch the ball when on that one play, you know what I mean?
hmm Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm sure since the rules came out, I'm sure everybody's been figuring out how to game the system,
But
and there'll be adjustments or whatever. I want to read something to make sure we get this right. The new pitch clock states the pitcher gets 15 seconds to begin the motion to throw the ball when the bases are empty, and 20 with runners on base. If he can't do that, he is charged with a ball. The hitter, however, must be ready to go into the batter's box. He must be facing and looking at the pitcher with 8 seconds left on the clock. If
Ah,
he
there
is
it is.
not, he gets charged with a strike.
That solves exactly what I was trying to
Yeah.
depict. So he's got 8 seconds. He's got to be ready to hit the ball with 8 seconds left.
Mhm.
So the pressure's on. That's interesting. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. To this week in baseball.
This week in baseball, Twib Notes. That was, do you remember that show, This Week in Baseball? That was like a big deal.
No,
Or
but I listen to This Week in Tech, and it's there, and
oh.
then I feel like there's a bunch of This Week in whatever your interest is on podcasts.
Yeah, that's funny. That's like a historical show. That was like the big deal. It was more of kind of a kids show. I mean, that was, that was going back before like Sports Center and obviously the internet and all that. But yeah, so you had This Week in Baseball, which was people were glued to that on Saturday mornings with the that's one of those historical shows. And then one of the segments was like they had the little notebook that opened and it was called Twib Notes, This Week in Baseball, Twib Notes.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, so it's kind of a funny thing. But yeah, baseball is definitely faster. I was looking for something here about the time of games, like for the first weekend.
They
Um,
said they're a half an hour faster, I think, is some of the headlines I saw.
yeah, that's about what we saw in spring training. There's some stuff here.
But they also said the minor league has been trialing these and testing these for what better part of I think they said like 5,000 games or something. So it's not
Yeah,
like
so
they didn't do their research.
no, and a lot of these younger players that have come up with this kind of stuff, so that helps them. That helps them as well.
I wonder
If
what's
they've
going
already
on in
gone
college
through it.
because
So,
usually that's important too, right? College kind of has different
yeah,
rules to some degree, like that
it
shift rule
does.
out in the infield.
I don't know what the rules are in college, and sometimes like with a pitch clock and stuff, it can be a technology or budgeting issue too. Is not only do you if you have a clock implemented, then you have to, install it at all the college ballparks and you have to make sure
Right.
all the technology is working. Because remember, the umpire has some sort of control over that with remotes about like when it actually officially starts each play and all that kind of stuff. So,
How, we're gonna move on, but real quick, how the larger bases. Of course, stealing is like one of the most fun things to watch too. So,
yeah.
do they really think they're gonna induce or promote more stealing with? I think they're an inch larger. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess
I
an
think
inch on either side of the base. It's 2 inches net.
they did, and that was another rule change too. Is you used to have the pitchers that would constantly throw over to first base to try to keep the guy close. Now that's
There's a limit.
considered a disengagement when you do that, and you're allowed. I think it's two disengagements per batter. So after the second throw over to first, you can throw again, but you've got to get the guy out. And if you don't get him out on the third, then he
He
gets
takes the
awarded
base.
second. Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah,
The stakes
yeah.
are high on the base, so there's going to be a lot of gamification here. That's interesting.
hmm
Oh,
Yeah, and
the
it's
old timers must be reeling.
yeah, they are a little bit, but I don't know. It's one of those things. It's like to what end? Is this going to attract new people to baseball? I don't think so. It might. There's probably some borderline folks who would go either way, but
If you
it'll certainly
have,
make that at the ballpark experience, I think, a little bit better.
yeah, I mean, if Twitter blows up because of some of these rules where people are like sliding in under the wire and people are stealing and I'm already more intrigued. Like I said, I was like, I'm a real centrist. So it's like I was real borderline. Like I'll go out to the park and I'll get a dog and I'll take the kids out and it's fun. But what a snore fest! Just you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
from a game standpoint, but. Action is action. If these guys are running and stealing bases, and there's more, base hits, and you know, I think that's more intriguing from one non fan to a fan.
Right, right. And in minor league baseball, going to the yard goats that are here in Hartford, you're going for the experience, right? That in between inning stuff is
For that
more
Instagram
exciting
photo.
for the kids than the game part of it.
Yeah. All right. So what do we want to talk about today other than baseball?
Well, I thought we were going to do baseball the whole time.
We can talk. I'll talk baseball all day long with you.
But one story I thought was pretty interesting was the did you see where Italy is banning the chat GPT from
I saw that headline.
coming
Did
in
you
there
do,
in
did
there?
you dive into it, or do we
I
take it at
yeah, I
face
read a
value?
couple articles on it. What were your initial thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny. The world is. You ever get the feeling, or let me say how I feel. Like I've always thought of the world that there's always somebody out there that will do every something, like, and that's what does that mean? Like, there's always somebody who's gonna kill themselves by crashing into a stop sign. There's always somebody who's gonna you know do something that you're like, how did that happen? Like, because with 8 billion or 7 billion people in the world, like, there's so many opportunities for every permutation of every act and function to happen. You know what I mean? So when I read that something happens, it's like you have the moment of like, how the hell did that happen? But then you're like, well, there's always that one. You ever heard that expression? There's always
Oh
that one.
yeah, all it
So
takes is one.
yeah, yeah. So it's like it's both like a guffaw, but it's like also like, I'll, oh, sorry, my emails. Let me just mute my email here. Um, so it's like both surprising and not surprising, because there's always just that one. So so Italy banning a technology is both like surprising as a technologist, and then as a citizen of the world, you're like, well, there's always one willing to do something first. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you knew at some point. Unfortunately, obviously, you get politics involved too. So if there's an outcry for it, when you look into it a little bit closer, you're like, yeah, they could kind of make the case here, right? It's like when you go onto certain websites, they make you verify your age for whatever that's worth. They make you, it's still silly that when you go to an alcohol website or whatever, not that I normally would, but they make you check this box, to make sure you're 21 or older or whatever, as if that's going to stop somebody. But there isn't
Right, right.
any of that sort of restriction as far as I know on Chat GPT. So like, okay, well that could be fair, although there really isn't anything anywhere else, any other kind of search or whatever. So that could be an issue. Um, and then some of the other concerns they brought up, so just kind of scanning through the article here, there was a small data breach that allowed some people to have access to information about, how it saves your chats over on the left, and it creates a little title for them if you don't create one yourself. So that information got out there. So they were using that as the reasoning behind banning it. So those are legitimate concerns, and it's not obviously a permanent ban. So OpenAI has some chance to kind of fix those or explain themselves and do what they can do to make sure it doesn't happen again. So that seems fairly reasonable.
I mean, when you say whenever anybody says, let's protect the children, like, it's like, well, yeah, okay, let's violate the rights and freedoms of everybody in the name of something, right?
Mhm.
But ChatGPT has an imperative to, like, make sure it's a secure experience. You know what I mean? So, like, it's total government overreach to monitor one website's security disposition. I mean, if they really, it's like having Tesla issue recalls for their software on their cars, when the politicians don't physically and technologically force OEMs to limit the speed of vehicles, when the science and data shows that speed kills. You,
Right.
you know what I mean? So it's like misplaced. What do they call it? Misplaced. Uh, it,
Yeah, I know what you're talking.
what's the
Word
term
you're
they
looking
say?
for there.
It's misplaced morality or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Chat GPT is the new thing, so the politicians and the people are focusing on the new thing. Of course, as a technologist, anytime I already recognize that technology both provides and takes away. It hurts and it heals. You know what I mean? It benefits and it injures. So, like, I already accept that emotionally. You know what I mean? So whenever I see an article like ChatGPT is blocked, I mean, there's some colleges I think that have already done it, and I think
Yeah. It's a
I've read
terrible
some.
idea.
Yeah, it's like. I mean, every time you watch a movie or read a book about some technology in the Middle Ages being viewed as sorcery, and then you got to hang him. She's a
Mhm.
witch. He's a witch. Hang him. When it's really just rooted in fear.
Fear and
Fear,
ignorance. Yeah,
fear and
100%.
ignorance. So that's how I feel when I read those headlines.
Yeah. And it's okay for, I think governments to kind of poke around and take a look. I think part of the issue you have here is a lot of these governments and people who are going to be making these decisions and making these calls are so out of touch with anything
Completely,
that.
completely.
So, if you look at some of the awful like Twitter hearings or Facebook hearings when they
Oh, the
like,
TikTok hearing, we talked
oh my
about
God,
that.
and the TikTok ones are so
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, one congressperson was grilling the CEO of TikTok at the hearing saying, "Your app uses my Wi-Fi, right?" And the guy was like, "What?"
I
He was
know.
like, "Well, it is an internet connected application, so you know what I mean." And it's just so dumb.
Yeah, that was a really
Um,
bad one. The
and the thing that bothers me with legislation and laws and regulators is, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm talking way out of school, but there's already laws that say like you can't kill people. So why does there have to be a law that says like you can't kill people with a car, you can't kill people with a knife, you can't kill people with a bat, you can't kill people with an emotion, you can't kill
Mhm.
people with words, you can't kill people with chat GPT. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm maybe oversimplifying, but when in the context of technologies, like there should already be laws for the company like ChatGPT or OpenAI, I guess is the organization that says like you can't do evil, you can't steal from your consumer,
Mhm.
you can't be negligent in the way that you handle their data, you can't, like these framework laws, and
Right.
then just like apply them uniformly and kind of hold everybody uniformly accountable to them. So but we see it over and over and over again, and this always gets. I hate to get always political. I mean, anybody who watches this content knows probably knows my political leanings at this point, which is forward, by the way, not left or right.
Mm.
Um, that like governments the world over are constantly looking at products, and then they're applying like their emotion to the context of the usefulness of the product in the economy, and then all liberty and freedom to the company or individual that's producing the product goes out the window, all in the name of public good. You know what I
Right.
mean? I
Sure.
mean, as much as I hate carbon producing companies, oil is the big one, oil and gas. I mean, it's just a product, you know what I mean? Like I have clients that are oil companies that sell oil, heating oil, for example, you know what I mean?
Right.
But anyways, don't get me started.
Do you expect there to be other countries that follow suit on
Com-
this, or
completely.
sometimes in the Eurozone? Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's already. I mean, I'm guessing it's probably banned in China, right? I mean, do we know that?
Yeah. I
I
don't
don't.
even know.
I mean, China locks that. TikTok's not even available in China.
Yeah. ChatGPT is not currently available in China. Um, yes, a heavy set. Other countries: North Korea, Iran, Russia. Although it's not officially blocked, OpenAI does not allow users in those countries to sign up.
Oh, okay, so that's a ban imposed by OpenAI.
Yeah.
That's not a government ban. Although you, I don't mean to be like generalist here, but it's well known that all of those autocratic governments, they they kind of choose the internet that their people will have
Sure.
access to. So had OpenAI said, yeah, anybody can sign up, um, it's probably likely that those governments would shut it down. And
Mhm.
Italy, I don't know anything about Italy's governance and government right now, but they're pretty far right over there in Europe, right? I mean, um, I'm completely talking out of my ass, so I don't know.
I think they tend to be a little bit stricter about this stuff. If you look at some of the Google and the Microsoft, they've
Yeah,
had bigger
I mean, they're
fines
socialist
imposed.
leaning, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that's
Yeah, and especially since these are all American companies, I think that plays a factor as well. But they don't create or make anything over there, so no, I'm just teasing.
oh, burn.
Um,
Oh, we're gonna get canceled. I'm so
I
glad we
know
don't have
we're going to be
anybody who
blocked.
watches this.
Well, maybe that'll
We
be the
are we already protected ourselves by starting with baseball, and then the
right.
fact that we have so few viewers, we're definitely not gonna get canceled. Thank God.
That'd be good if we did, though.
That'd be
Um,
funny if CNN picked us up and then we got canceled.
yeah, that would be pretty funny. But it does relate back to you brought up the TikTok controversy and those hearings, which I think hopefully you'd agree takes us down a really bad path. I don't think anybody thinks that what they're doing is not too dissimilar from what technology companies in this country have done. And I think it's people look at this and they say, well, is this being driven by its competitors, which are Facebook, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, and to some extent, I guess LinkedIn. But is this being the TikTok ban? Is that basically them lobbying to have the government kind of draw a line through their competition, which I think we'd all agree is probably a pretty bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, again, I try really hard to avoid politics in all this, but I mean,
Well,
when a technology company is forced to testify in front of Congress,
mhm,
and then I'm a technologist, and you're in the space, in the finance space, and the economic impact of Congress picking winners and losers. I mean, that is the moral hazard. That it's antithetical to what America is, and that's yeah. I mean, if somebody like me, who's like, once upon a time, I called myself a libertarian, not the tinfoil hat wearing one, but the one that says, like, like, everybody do what you want, just you can't hurt other people, and
mhm,
don't make other people, don't steal from others to pay for your ambitions, um and now I do recognize, and we all learned in the mid teens, 2016, and things like that, that social media can be manipulated to sway the sentiments of mass populations. I mean, we did learn that, but I actually submit that, the generation that succeeds you and I will likely, well, I hope, I'm optimistic and hoping that they're going to be some of the most strongest critical thinkers that have ever lived. The reason being is, like, this whole misinformation uh, era that we're in, right? I mean, you and I kind of grew up knowing that, like, probably not everything on the internet is true. You know what I mean?
right.
Uh, our parents definitely don't understand that, because they grew up reading with the understanding that what journalists were saying was true, and what Walter Cronkite was reporting was true, and uh, you know, facts were facts,
Hmm.
and I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like our generation pretty much knows that, like, you know, everything on the TV is not necessarily what the TV man says may not be actually what is true, and then certainly when the internet, and I think the internet helped with that, the internet came up in the late 90s and teens, and I think we just learned quickly that, like, like online dating, and ghosting and or catfishing and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
still have conversations with my dad where, like, I'm like, Dad, stop reading the internet. Like, it's not everything you read on the internet or now, like, view and YouTube is real. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Old habits dying hard there. So I'm hopeful that the next generation just knows that, like, you have to apply critical thinking to all streams of information. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the downside could potentially be that it goes so far in the other direction that they don't trust anything. I'm almost at that point myself where I see images and I'm like, that could be real. I mean, the Pope in the puffy jacket, that's the one that got the rounds last week, and Mid-Journey shutting down because they had too many requests for Trump in handcuffs or Trump being arrested and all that kind of stuff. So um, I don't know I don't know what it's like for somebody to grow up and almost trust nothing that they see. And even if they know it's entertainment, like they're scrolling through TikTok and they know all these models and whatever are using filters and it's video editing and the deep fakes and now with the voices and all that kind of stuff. It's funny, but you're going to get to the point where and we're close or probably within months of being it almost indistinguishable what's real
Right.
and what's fake. So I don't know what kind of effect that has on people to not trust anything basically.
And I still would not cast my vote to artificially retard uh, the development and release of a new technology like
No, no, you can't do that. You just have to learn how to adapt with it because the idea that you're gonna, even the letter, which was on my list of things to get to, maybe we won't get that, but the idea that like a bunch of people are going to sign a letter and get OpenAI to slow down or not release another version is insane. Like, I don't even know what the ppurpose of that. Just, I mean, Elon has to know that obviously nobody's going to be like, okay, you're right. We're not going to
Well,
release.
you're talking about the letter that all all anybody with a name signed about the
Yeah.
fear and the caution of AI. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, talk about agendas. You know,
Hmm.
I mean, I'm gonna talk out of my ass a little bit here on this one, but Elon has really taken an odd disposition over the last couple of years. Like he seems like he was revered in the late teens with his comeuppance with Tesla, and he David versus Goliath, and he won and he's winning, and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden he seems very hostile to uh humanity in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? And then he buys Twitter and he's like very cheeky about it, and almost to say like, I'm so damn rich that I don't 40 bill and I'll just take over this thing that just irritates me. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So then now, don't forget, like he was an initial sponsor of OpenAI. Like
Sure.
he was there when it started. He was the one who helped charter the program. I saw an interview. Well, I don't know if you watch how much of that Sam Altman, Lex Friedman you watched, but Sam was a gentleman in how he spoke about Elon, but he did say that Elon is is not very polite to Sam Altman anymore. And I can't help but think, and I think what I've read is that Elon wanted to take control of OpenAI, and
Hmm.
Sam Altman won that internal battle, and now it looks like just sour grapes. I don't know. From what I'm looking, it looks like Elon's attack on OpenAI looks a lot like sour grapes. Because don't forget, Elon, the thing that made Elon the richest person in the world is betting the house on Elon's team solving artificial intelligence, which is the
Right.
self-driving car, which he's already announced that he's adapting AI to a bipedal humanoid robot form. You've seen
Hmm.
that, right?
Sure.
So it's just like it seems real, like there's a real conflict here from Elon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it did strike me as a little bit odd, and there were some other pretty prominent signatures on that list too.
Yeah,
You had some folks.
Wozniak.
Yep,
I
yep,
mean,
that
come
was
on.
a big
He
one.
invented he helped make the Macintosh computer 40 years ago, and like, I
Mhm.
mean, sure, he's a technologist and you can't take that away from him, but he's kind of a flake.
Yeah, yep. I think that's pretty fair characteristic. We really are going to get canceled on this, aren't we?
We are so getting canceled, but
Friggin'
I'm at this point I'm kind of pushing all my chips in on this one.
yeah. Why not? If you're going to go down swinging, right?
Oh,
But
I'm going down with a blaze of glory.
yeah, I mean, everybody's got some kind of agenda. Everybody's kind of pushing. And their companies that aren't out now are behind. Google's working hard to catch up. So if they think they can just put out a letter and get their
Not
competition launched,
Microsoft.
yeah, not Microsoft because they're involved. It's kind of
Who are the
kind
other
of big deal.
names? I know Wozniak and Elon, but were there any Googlers on there?
Yeah,
Was Schmidt
so four Google employees, including three from its subsidiary AI lab, DeepMind.
and
You,
Schmidt, right?
I don't see Schmidt's
Eric Sch-
name on
Eric
here.
Schmidt was the former CEO of Google, but still a major shareholder of Google. Google is trailing OpenAI. OpenAI is now almost entirely in bed and funded by Microsoft. You see what I'm getting at here?
Oh, I know, I know. I just want to double check and see if Eric Schmidt was on this letter.
Because he was, I saw him making the rounds in the media, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure the headline was something to the effect of Schmidt was taking the position of, we've got to be careful with this AI thing.
Hmm.
Which really sounds like we've got to slow everybody down while Google catches up.
Right. Yeah. What's kind of funny, completely off topic, is some of these like early time tech guys when you maybe haven't seen them in a while, and suddenly you're like, oh man, that guy looks old.
Oh yeah,
Like
I
they got old really quickly.
who I've been thinking about that. I Ben Affleck is making the rounds on his new Air movie. Have you
Yeah.
seen that?
Hmm.
He's a smoker, and it's like, oh, he's hitting that kind of like peak age where like all the smoking is just because smoking like totally damages your skin. I
Mm.
don't know if you know that, but like they had some close up shots in HD on the TV, and I was like, oh Ben,
I know, I know. Well, they're gonna he's gonna be deep faked for all his movies and stuff now
right,
anyway, so they're not gonna be using the current Ben.
right,
Yeah. I mean, the
right.
current they have no use for the current Ben. They can touch him up, they can do whatever anyway. But yeah, it is kind of funny when you see these guys who are involved in early Google and you're like, "Oh yeah, these guys are like didn't realize that they're in their 50s and stuff," you know?
What do you think about Luke signing up for a service you're my age-ish, so in 40 years when you and I are long gone, we're dust in the earth. When Luke
40?
is
I hope
I
we're
don't
not
know.
going to
I'm
40.
trying. I was trying to give us. I don't know. Whatever. You and I are long gone.
Yeah.
Luke's, is maybe a grandfather himself, and you know, and this is. I mean, in 40 years, definitely. I mean, in 10 years, 5 years, I think it's already happening. But like, would you want Luke to sign up for some legacy, some new Facebook kind of esque service where they can just scrape the internet, the open internet? Because
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but I know about you. You have tons of publicly available content, video and audio content, right?
Sure.
Would you feel sad for Luke if he wanted to um, ask this service, hey, I don't know how to package it, but I want to talk to my dad again. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And would you be happy for him or sad for him if he were compelled to do that, wanted to do that? If the data was could I mean the data could do that, right? I mean, you just all of our images and audio can be synthesized now. I mean, that's what AI is doing, right? How what would you want for Luke?
Um, I would be okay with it. I think for me, it's almost easier to go the other way. Obviously, the information and the data isn't out there on my father or grandfather, but if I could bring them back with all the knowledge and stuff that they have, I think it would be interesting from to talk to them on an unemotional level, if that makes sense. So
Sure, yeah.
so to go back, if all the thoughts and knowledge of my grandfather were available to me that I could flip a button and ask him questions, I think that would be I think that
But
would
that
be interesting. That's something I would want to do.
If
But
they
I
have any
but
published works, I mean, the AI could probably synthesize the probability of what they would say. I mean, that's how that's working, right? The
yeah,
language model?
yeah. Yeah, there's not nearly the data, obviously, but so probably wouldn't be as good. But I don't know. Did your grandfather have any voice recordings?
No, but I mean, this'll be,
Yeah,
progressive through the generations, like,
right.
the body of work that you and I have just in our own spoken and written words,
Yeah.
you and I will be able to be, I think, easily synthesized. So,
Mhm.
and then whatever Luke does for his career, I mean, presumably he'll have content that's publicly available on the internet, which can be scraped and
Yeah, he already
synthesized.
does.
Yeah,
Like my
exactly.
stupid Instagram reels. Yeah.
I mean, this is what's fascinating about this technology. Like, we can actually see this science fiction come where our children, and certainly our children's children, will be able to say, I want to talk to the 10-year-old version of myself, or the 10-year-old version of my father, or the 10-year-old version of my grandfather. Just have a conversation, and it won't even be like typing prompt anymore. You know what I mean? It'll be computer. It'll be
It'll
because
be
AI is
metaverse. Yeah, it'll be initially it'll be goggles, right? It'll be the
goggles or
Mhm.
webcam or whatever the medium or the form factor is. But that is on we're on the precipice of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, so think about it. What would you have to do today to cobble that together? You could take an image, you could take a still image and make that a video. It's not great, but you can do that. You can take an audio recording, upload it, and then they can synthesize any words you want to say. So you've got the mechanism behind that. If the person is famous enough, if you wanted to do if you wanted to go on Chat GPT and talk to Richard Nixon, or I don't know, I'm trying to think
Right.
of somebody that's Ronald
Also, right.
Reagan or somebody who's got tons of information out there. You could take a
Right.
Reagan
Imagine
book.
your book report in sixth grade on George Washington or Richard Nixon isn't by book, but you literally talk to the individual.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean it's I don't that's not even close to a 40. It's closer to 40 months than 40 years, right?
I know I was trying to be
I
generous.
know, but I mean, if you were doing the components of it now, So you can make Chat GPT take on the personality and voice of Ronald Reagan. There's enough out there, um, and then you could take that and you could upload that to a voice synthesizer. There's enough speeches of him that have been recorded. There's enough video out there. You can make. I mean, they're already doing it with
And I gotta
you
say,
know.
like, I came into this conversation not even with my mind on
Mhm.
on this wavelength that you and I are hitting right now.
Yeah.
But this is what I love about this technology and technology in general. Like,
Mhm.
as you and I just kind of like pull at the strings,
Mhm.
and I'm sure people have already sat in rooms talking about this, but I'm discovering this as you and I are talking right now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. We've
I
had a
came
few of those.
I came to this conversation thinking about my mother because I lost my mother at 9 years old, and then I'm thinking about it now as a father, and like what my kids' experience will be like when I'm gone or I'm no longer able to be with them in the present. And then we just kind of found this journey where it's like, oh my god, if you ban this technology from school, like this technology, like sixth grader doing a book report on Richard Nixon isn't going to the library to pull off dusty books from the shelf
Mhm.
or Google Wikipedia or something. He or she may actually be able to have a conversation with Ronald Reagan because all of his body of work, of course, is it's we everybody agrees now that the physical and audio representation of individuals that's done work, right? That's done, right? But then Chat GPT could take in all of the body of work that was Nixon's and surrounding his era, and then they could actually reproduce a dialogue, synthesized dialogue with the person, and
Sure.
then that could be the learning experience in sixth grade.
Mhm. Yeah, and you know what the common thread is to all of this, whether it's about being interviewing for a job, or doing any sort of AI or any prompts or any social media. The common link to all of this is always you have to know what the good questions to ask are, and that's what's going to come through on every level. So the book report isn't going to be who makes grammatical errors on their fifth grade report. It's not going to be who double spaced after a period and who double spaced on their line and who cited sorted sources. But all right, do your 15-minute presentation on Ronald Reagan and let's see who asked the best questions. That's how you test.
That's
It's
really
always been
interesting.
how you test somebody's knowledge. That's always what makes a good interview. That's always what makes whatever. So now you're bringing that to the the
If the
purest.
exercise is an intellectual exercise, then the
Mhm.
intellectual output should be the merit
Right.
gauged, right?
You're stripping out all the grammar because nobody cares about that. That's a done issue. Nobody cares about that. Where the commas are in your 5-page report and all that kind of nonsense. It just comes down to who's prepared enough to ask the best questions.
That's a really good bookend on that topic. That is a really good. That's really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fun to talk about that kind of stuff. But and that's, and that goes back to all the stuff about people being fearful of losing their jobs or losing whatever to, programmers. All the programmers like this stuff so far because they can 10, 20x themselves, but the low end programmers who don't know what prompts to use and don't have the ideas and don't have the whatever, that's who it's going to hurt. So it all comes down. Even something is
Well,
logical as programming or something like that. It just comes down to what questions to
and
ask.
that's what I've said before, and I don't think I've coined it, but these technology is a human amplifier,
Mhm.
and whether you use it, whether your body of work was loud or soft, the amplifier is going to amplify you commensurate with your original input, right?
Mhm. Well, think about our jobs specifically. How much more effective were we at our jobs? How much better are we at our jobs because we know what questions to ask, right?
Right.
It's not about what you've memorized and what you can tell somebody. It's about what questions you can ask to get them to give you the information that you need to process and then give them a return. So it's that whole idea of the concept of what questions. If you're training your child right now, the most important thing you can teach them, no matter what they end up doing, is teach them to ask the right questions and listen and process the response rather than trying to think of their next question, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Critical thinking.
Yep.
I
Fascinating
mean,
stuff.
this could all result in the next generation being some of the biggest thinkers the world, and I feel like it will, because it's just the evolution of that.
I think so. Yeah, unless they spend too much time on changing the logo of Twitter to Dogecoin or any of
Okay,
that
we
kind of
should.
nonsense.
Good segue. We're switching gears here. So break that down. My Nathan on my team, he goes, "Did you see what Musk did to the Twitter logo?" And
Yeah.
I was already disconnected for the day with the kids and my wife, but I did catch up. You want to tell us?
Yes, I don't think that's a so I just typed in twitter.com live now, so I think it's only on, like, the desktop versions of whatever. I guess I can share share our tab here. Um, I just had to make sure there wasn't anything crazy on my Twitter feed, but, so I'll do a plug here for My Golf Spy. You gotta follow them if you're into golf. I'm not even into golf, but I follow them because 'cause they're pretty cool. But up in the top left here, they changed the Twitter logo. Which has always been the little blue bird, to the logo for
Doge,
Dogecoin,
Dogecoin.
which started as kind of a joke, but it's a cryptocurrency, and it's up between 20 or 30% since he changed this. And some of this, it's silly and it's kind of fun to talk about, but some of this relates back to um, his original one of his original projects um, was PayPal. This PayPal mafia, they call it, of all those original PayPal founders who've gone on to go and do other things. But his original mission was this, calling it basically a cryptocurrency before it existed. Like, how can we exchange money faster without having to convert to a dollar, out of the dollar to yen, back to dollar? How do we do all this stuff? So it's almost like he's always had this kind of project in the back of his mind. So I think you get the surge in this Dogecoin as people saying, linking all those two together and say, all right, here we go again. Here's Twitter, here's Elon, here's PayPal, here's his banking and finance background. He still wants to push this as the payment, and maybe you're only going to be able to be Twitter verified if you pay with
So
Dogecoin or something.
you're saying that Elon has an eye to revisit financial platforms?
Do Yep, I believe so.
I
Yeah,
mean, I've read that, but I want to, for our
yeah,
viewers who aren't reading between your lines, I want to just kind of spell that out.
yeah. I think so.
So
Yeah.
do you think that he spent 40 billion to just he has a turnkey app and an audience, and he's a potential pivot of Twitter, or a multi-use of Twitter, or one of those Weibo, or what's the Chinese Swiss Army knife app that they have? Are you
Oh,
familiar with that?
Baidu.
Baidu, I think, which
Yeah.
is like a social network. It's an Amazon-like retailer, and I think it's like a financial
Payment
tool.
processing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it's
so too.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You're asking me to get in the mind of Elon Musk, which is a challenge. But I think that was probably, I don't think he said, I'm gonna pay 40 billion for Twitter, and I'm gonna use this to go back to my payment processing days and monetize it that way. But I think that might have been on his list. I think he did see an opportunity to clean it up and cut waste. And as much as, going back to our other discussion about AI, I think he saw a lot of fluff in kind of that middle management thing. And I think he realizes that can be automated and processed. And I think he wants programmers and doers. And then I think he wants some really high level management, big thinkers, thinkers and then doers without anything else in the middle. So I think he figured out a way to. I think he wanted to monetize it with Twitter verified and the blue and all that. And I think he saw cost cutting, and I think he saw it was probably on his whiteboard, a potential use for payment processing. And if I could just tweet you $10 for coffee or whatever, I think he does see that on the roadmap. So
I didn't come into this conversation prepared. It's not that, like, we have a huge audience that's going to analyze our angles here, but I just didn't. I wasn't. What I'm about to say is not prepared, right? But
mhm.
as this, I'm uncovering this as you and I are talking,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at this, and I'm like, you speculate, because right now the media storm against Twitter is like, it's a David and Goliath again, right? Like, the media disposition at large is that Twitter is going down in flames, and is this a typical, like, the people love to knock you off the high horse, but they love to help you back up onto it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And just talking with you about, like, I've known the speculation for at least 6 months during this Twitter campaign that he had, was that, there was speculation that he did want to revisit electronic payments and electronic money. And he does seem really interested in cryptocurrency and the movement of money. And that's certainly where his background is. And then today you have this thing where he changes the goddamn Twitter icon to the Dogecoin, and then Dogecoin pops 20% in value.
Hmm.
And then you start thinking, well, and then you start, just from talking with you, it's like, well, he doesn't, most of his businesses aren't really single use, if you think about it. You know what I mean? Like, Tesla is not a car company.
Right.
And the investors who are getting rich on this know that Tesla is not a car company. They are a technology company, a platform company. I mean, they have the Tesla bot, they have the Tesla power wall, they've got Tesla power, Tesla solar.
Hmm.
And so, like, he becomes this kind of multi-tooled, he understands, like, multi-tooling or lines of business from, so you look at Twitter. Is he looking at Twitter like not a social media network anymore? And then, yes, it's the short-term loss of, I think they're, what are they valuing Twitter now? 20 bill. I think he took a
Yeah,
50,
something like that. Yeah.
yeah, he took a 50% haircut on it. But he's just restructuring, leaning, and then
Mhm.
now is like, are they, in a year or two? I don't know, what's Twitter trading at. Do you know?
Well, it's private now, so I don't even know.
Oh, it's not even on the market anymore.
No.
Oh. Oh, okay. So there's no investment. There's no retail investment opportunity
Right.
there.
Right.
Okay, so maybe that's not. But still, I mean, he did it with SpaceX. SpaceX is not publicly traded. I don't think
Hmm.
I think the Boring Company is not publicly traded, but there are still investors invited to contribute there. But it almost seems likely now that Twitter will start bolting on these seemingly bizarre functionalities and features that, like, the middle market won't really, or certainly the news media will pick up as, and not understand, like, why is Twitter an e-payments platform now? You know what I mean? Like, I
Hmm.
can see CNN and Fox and MSNBC trolling Twitter about, and Jim Cramer, you know what I mean,
Right.
with their infinite wisdom. And then all of
Hmm.
a sudden, like, he built a revenue stream, sure, microtransactions, but now he's got another, 50 bill a quarter coming in.
Yeah. What if you give away Teslas, make it a subscription model, only make people pay through Twitter using Dogecoin, and
Right.
give away cars? Come, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I mean, but yeah, I mean, even if he makes it another payment platform, I mean, there's nothing to preclude him from competing as a payment platform, you know?
Sure. Sure. And
Um,
what if every drive-through adopts the Twitter, Dogecoin, um, Tesla model, where you order your McDonald's, and you drive through, and it's all processed through your payment platform, through your car.
the
I think when you look at hardware versus service, we talk about that with Apple and stuff, and the idea of giving away hardware for subscription is obviously pretty commonplace, but we're probably not that far away for it on vehicles. We talk about these big sea changes of nobody's going to own cars anymore. They're just going to summon one, and it's going to arrive at their house to pick them up and take them anywhere. And that's probably on the
well,
roadmap.
I
Pardon
told
the
you my
pun.
theory on that, right?
Yeah, yeah, we talked about that. But what if in between
You get a
there
free
is
ride if you order a Starbucks on the way.
yeah, well, we
So
talked about that. NBC will
Starbucks will
have cars where you get a car for free, but you have to sit there and watch the Today Show with
right.
their ads streaming along the bottom. So you probably have that
Yeah,
too.
maybe Twitter payments becomes successful because every retailer knows that they get a plug every time you make a transaction.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if if Elon gave away Teslas right now for but with a $500 a month subscription, or whatever it was, $600 $200 a week or whatever, he's going to get to the point where the actual cost of the car is going to be such an insignificant piece of the revenue that he may just give them away because he'll make it back threefold in the subscription revenue, which by the way he can raise anytime he wants. And you know, if you've got
Yeah,
the
and
vehicle.
to that point, I've been kind of chomping at the bit, and I've talked about it on our show before. I'm surprised that you can get apps on on the Tesla screen, the interface,
Yeah.
but it doesn't yet feel like a fully fledged. And I don't have a Tesla, and I don't know, but it doesn't feel like a full app store.
Hmm.
And one of the biggest revenue streams for Apple and Google are the app stores. I mean, they're taking 30% of every transaction you make through that store, and it results in billions and billions and billions every quarter.
Yeah.
So I'm shocked, and I'm actually shocked. And we just saw an announcement from GM. I'll get to, but I'm just shocked that Elon doesn't really realize that. Why don't you just publish a store, a proper store, and then
Hmm.
let the developers discover what utility you can get out of a car's infotainment screen, and then have that become a revenue stream. So I'm a little
That's
surprised about
probably has to do with his ego thinking nobody's going to be able to come up with better apps than me. So rather
that.
than take 40%, I'll figure it out myself and do 100%. So it's probably
It
like
does feel like that.
yeah, probably like the early days of Apple, right? When it was only their apps and you know the whole developer world didn't
It
really
does feel like
exist.
that. Yeah.
So that was probably may change over time, but I'm sure whatever he's thinking, you know, maybe that's his idea behind slowing open AI, but he probably thinks he'll be able to come up with everything better first. So why
Yeah.
bother?
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, so you had a GM story you want to get to or
Well,
Ford?
I was just in the same vein. I didn't know how much longer you wanted to keep going, but yeah, it's just GM made some headlines yesterday, I think, or the day before, that they are moving away from Apple CarPlay and Google Android Auto, or Android Auto, and they're going to develop or co-develop their own operating system with Google.
Hmm,
And it sounds like at first it's annoying because it seems like Android Auto and Apple CarPlay bring in that App Store functionality to your cars.
yeah.
But it sounds like GM really wants to do what I just described, what I think Tesla should do, which is make a platform on your car and then build an API in an app store. And now the OEM has a new revenue stream, because you don't know, like Apple never knew how pervasive and amazing the app store and the app utility was going to be on their platform. Maybe they did, but they certainly didn't at launch. The app store, I keep saying on all my podcasts here, that the app store on the iPhone was not, the iPhone did not launch with the app store.
Right.
But now that there's the app store, I mean, it's a significant revenue. It's funny though, you make mention like Tesla giving away phones. If they did have an app store and all of these service revenue streams, but Apple famously does both. They sell their hardware at a premium, which is a huge revenue stream for them, and they make it on the services.
Hmm. Yeah, so we have a Volvo, and originally they said, well, we're going to have all these integrations, and they're not on this first version of the XC90, which had the bigger console, basically like a a portrait mode um, iPad is what it looked like. And then when they did have the functionality, they came back to us and wanted to charge us like $700 or something to buy it after they had told us that
Right.
it wasn't ready yet, and we'll give it to you. But yeah, I mean the operating systems and the like the GPS they in the cars, like the native GPS, still stinks, and it's too bad because and I guess our car is getting pretty. It does not sound like it's too old, but it's I guess a 2016 or something. So it is 7 years old. But you got these great screens, but the GPS is like terrible, and you're looking at it. It's like, oh, why don't you guys just use Google Maps, or why don't you use Waze or something? And
I
it
think
is
the same thing.
frustrating when you have better technology in your phone, or or it's like, oh, go to your Volvo to get your maps updated for the latest whatever. And I'm like, really, guys, you can't just like, so that kind of stuff is frustrating. So you wish they would just, use operating systems that were already in existence rather than try to create their own stuff and put their own curbs in place to prevent certain things. But
Yep.
but we'll see how that all kind of shakes out.
Yeah, and they still the typical non-Tesla car manufacturer's info experience
Mhm.
feels very much like walking up to a bank's ATM,
Oh my god, I
or
know. And the
or the
voice command
menu on a
stuff.
yeah, or the menu on your TV. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
The meta settings menu on your TV. You're like,
Yeah,
it's
I
you know,
know. I know. Although I give some of those credit. They've gotten a little bit better. A lot of them are using QR codes now because it's worse to try to, like, you get logged out of your Netflix account. You're like, really, I have to type in my email address, like using the moving the. So at least now they do a QR. Some of them where you can log in from your
Disney's is the
phone.
nicest. I don't know if you noticed that, but when you're logged into Disney on your mobile and
Mhm.
you launch the Disney app on a device on the same network, it will
Yeah.
see your phone and your phone will say like, "Oh, hey, are you trying to log into Disney on that?" And you're just like,
Hmm.
"Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
wish
our
everybody would."
the Roku's the ones that are built in the TV, and then the ones we have the box, they all talk to each other now. So if you add an app, add a channel, it gets updated to all of them, which
Oh,
is pretty
nice.
nice. So they're all getting a little bit better with that kind of stuff. But we should do a whole episode on, like, the TV viewing experience and how all of that is, like, totally gotten worse over the last 10 years. I think, in my opinion, the Disney
Sure.
one. The problem with that, though, the search and, like, the filtering functionality is, like, terrible. Like, we were trying to figure out a Sunday night movie to watch with Luke, like, the most basic of basic Disney functions, like, give me a give me a movie that's less than 90 minutes that is, like, I don't know what the ratings are, but lower than G, like a Y6 or Y4 or whatever. Like, there's no filtering. There's no, like, there has to be some very standard, like, filters to do, like, basic stuff. Length and rating, like, have to be. That should have been paramount. And you look at that and you're like, how hard is that to do? Like, you can't tell me, like, some developer can't do that in, like, a day. I don't know.
Right.
But that's the kind of stuff that frustrates me in YouTube.
I
But
feel your pain.
yeah.
Well, what do you say? You want to wrap it?
That is, yep. Let's do a wrap here. I will share one quick slide here, just because I kind of feel like we have to here. Just one tab, because this just came in. But this is the because we are finance and technology. This was just a wrap up from March. And really the first quarter, everything here was technology related. And the one that's actually in a different sector, well, the two that Meta, which is now considered communication services, which I think most people would consider technology also. And then Illumina was a big stock for the month. But yeah, year to date returns on this stuff.
Wow, Intel huge bump, huh?
Yeah.
They were looking like they were in a nosedive over the last year, right?
Yeah, and Nvidia too, that's the one that's getting a lot of play too, because people are, as you look, like, "Oh, who's gonna win this AI war and who's gonna win?" Well, aside from that, the winners are gonna be the processors and the
The
and
platform
the and the
providers, yeah.
storage and all that kind of stuff, because they're the ones running this stuff no matter who wins. So, interesting to follow them, and
Well,
Microsoft as well.
Meta, huh? Meta's Facebook is
Yeah.
still
Yeah, and I
relevant.
guess that was based all on his announcements about, getting away from the metaverse. I don't think he'd ever suck it up and change the name back, but it's kind of become a bit of a punchline, or a bit of a meme, that it's called Meta, and they're kind of moving away from the metaverse stuff, which I don't think is kind of dead. Maybe they went too into it and spent too much money on it, but
Mm.
I still think that's a part of our future, but it's kind of been overshadowed by the AI stuff, although that is AI or whatever. But
It's
um,
amazing that these companies still have enough headroom for these kinds of growth.
yeah, and a lot of this is because they just got beat up so much last year. It's just a little bit of a bounce back from that,
Oh,
but
it's a okay, it's a
um, but yeah, big. So figured I'd share that before we go. But you want to take us out?
Yeah, this is Finance and Technology Insights with Brian and Eric. I'm Eric Buhrendorf, CEO of EverNet Consulting. We are a national services provider. You can find me and our social networks at EverNet CO, and our website is evernetco.com. If you want to chat with me about your IT needs, schedule a discovery call at our website, evernetco.com.
And I'm Brian Williams from Northshire Consulting, which is an independent advisory firm focusing on small businesses and families to work on investment and other financial planning needs. We are northshireconsulting.com. Social media stuff is 401k and beyond. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.